Hello, this is lesson 5, factoring trinomials, and this is found on page 3 of your notes. So this is lesson 5, and let's get started. Basically, today we're going to factor trinomials, something that has 3 terms. Anytime you factor a trinomial, you should ask, can I factor anything from all 3 terms? And as we can see, there's nothing we can factor. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the first number and the last number. I'm going to go here to the side and I'm going to multiply those two numbers. So 4 times 5 equals 20. Then we're going to create a list of numbers that give us 20, such as starting with 1. 1 and 20 gives us 20. 2 and 10. The next number will be 3, but 3 does not go into 20. So let's go on to 4. 4 goes into 20 5 times. And if we're going down the list, the next number would be 5, but 5 is already part of the group. So we know we have finished our list. So in other words, if you start seeing the numbers repeating, it's because you're done with the list. Okay, once you're finished with the list, we're going to go here to the middle term. I'm going to focus our attention to this number right there. This number is positive 12. I'm going to look at my list of numbers, and I'm looking for if I add or subtract these pairs of numbers, would any of them give me 12? For example, 5 plus 4. Does 5 plus 4 give me 12? No. How about 5 minus 4? Does that give me 12? No. 5 minus 4 is 1. Does not give me this 12 that I'm looking for. How about 10 and 2? 10 and 2 will give me a 12. So that's one of, so I'll put a star by it to remind me that that works. How about 20 and 1? Does that give me 12? No. So the only pair that gives me 12 is 2 and 10. Alright. With that, I focus my attention again to the middle term, and I notice it's a positive number. Okay, because it's a positive number, I want to make sure that the biggest digit here has the same sign, so this would be positive as well. And now, my goal is to have positive 12, so if I have positive 10 and I want positive 12, would this have to be a positive or a negative? Well, the answer would be, it would have to be a positive. Alright. Now that we have these two, one final check is, if I take this sign right here, a positive, times a positive, does it give me the sign of the third term? And in this case is a positive. So a positive times a positive, does it give me this positive? And the answer is yes. So with that, we can come down over here. We are going to copy the first term. Want to break down the middle term with the numbers that we selected here. So 2x plus 10x. And we're going to bring down the positive 5. Okay, now that I have that, let's group them in pairs. And what number can I factor from 4x squared and 2x? The answer is 2x. So 4x squared divided by 2x is 2x. And 2x divided by 2x is 1. And what can I factor from 10x and 5? The answer would be 5. So 10x divided by 5 is 2x. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Now that I have that, what do they have in common? They have in common 2x plus 1. And if I factor out the 2x plus 1 from both of them, what do they have left? So in other words, if I take out the 2x plus 1 from the first term, I'll be left with 2x. And if I remove the 2x plus 1 from the second term, what I'm left with? I'm left with the 5. So this would be my answer. Okay. Now, one thing about factoring is that you can check if you did it correctly by applying FOIL. So let me bring this scratch piece of paper and demonstrate how I can check my answer by foiling. Okay, if you remember FOIL, you draw these two boxes and you multiply the first times the first. So this would be 4x squared. Then you do the outsides. 2x times 5 is 10x. And then you do the inside, so 1 times 2x is 2x. So you combine those, this would be 12x. And then you multiply the last times last will give you 5. So if you notice, we got the original problem that we started out with. So that tells us that our answer is correct. Okay? Alright. Now you don't have to do this. I just did this to illustrate that you can double check your answer. But basically the final answer is the one in the box. Alright, let's proceed to letter B. Again, I asked myself, can I factor anything from all three terms? And the answer is no. So I'm going to take the first term and multiply by the last term. So 6 times 1 equals 6. And then I'm going to split number 6 into 1 and 6. After 1 comes 2, 2 and 3. And after 2 comes 3, but 3 is already on the list, so I'm done. Now I focus my attention on the middle term. That means I want to, for these numbers, when adding or subtracting, to give me a 5. So 2 plus 3 gives me a 5, so that qualifies. And 6 minus 1 also gives me a 5, so they both qualify. Now, put attention on the sign of the middle term is a negative, so that means the sign of the biggest here will be negatives. And now we want to have negative 5. Negative 3 plus 2 or minus 2 will give me a negative 5. The answer is negative. Negative 2, negative 3 gives me negative 5. Okay, now negative 6 plus 1 or negative 1 gives me negative 5. The answer would be positive. Okay, final check. We have to pay attention now to this sign right here. The sign of the last term on the trinomial. Okay, the sign here is positive. A negative times a negative, does it give me a positive? And the answer is yes. How about a negative times a positive? Does it give me a positive? No. So that means this here fails. So that means the numbers that I want to use is negative 2, negative 3. So let's come over here. I'm going to bring down the 6x squared. I'm going to break down negative 5x as negative 2x, negative 3x, and bring down the positive 1. Alright, now that I have them, let's group them in pairs. What can I factor from the first two? I can factor a 2x, and if I factor that, 6x squared divided by 2x is 3x. Negative 2x divided by 2x is negative 1. I'll bring down that negative sign. And what can I factor from 3x plus 1? I cannot factor anything, so what we're going to do, we're going to put a 1 there, because we can actually factor out a 1 from both of them. So negative 3x divided by negative 1 is 3x, and a positive 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. Now that I have that, I look for what they have in common. They have in common 3x minus 1. And if I remove the 3x minus 1, I'm left with 2x minus 1. So this will be the answer for our problem. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the next problem. Again, first question we should ask is, can I factor anything from all three terms? The answer is no. So we're going to select the first and the last term. I'm going to multiply here on the side. So that will be a 60. And what your numbers give me 60? It will be 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 goes into 60 12 times, 6 and 10, then 7 does not go into 60, 8 does not go into 60, nor 9, and then the next number will be 10, but 10 is already there, so we know we have finished our list. Now we're going to focus our attention on the middle term. We're looking for something that gives 17. 12 and 5 gives 17. 3 and 20 give us 17. Now we focus our attention on the sign of the middle term, which happens to be positive. So that means 12 and 20 are going to be positive. And now I want to make sure that my answer is positive 17. So positive 12 plus 5 or negative 5 will give me positive 17. The answer is positive. If this is positive 20 and I want positive 17, what would the sign of 3 have to be? It would have to be negative. Alright. Now, our final check is the sign. We want to have the same sign as the third term, which happens to be a negative. So, a positive times a positive is a positive, so that means that fails. A positive times a negative gives me a negative, so that means this is the two numbers that I want to use. With that decided, come over here and copy the first term. Break down the middle term with 3x plus 20x and bring down the negative 5. With that said, let's go ahead and group the first two and the last two. If I group the first two and I factor the first two, what can I factor from both terms? The answer would be a 3 and an x, so 3x. So 12x squared divided by 3x is 4x minus 4x. Negative 3x divided by 3x is negative 1. Bring down that positive. What can I factor from 20x and 5? The answer is for 5. 20x divided by 5 is 4x. And negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. With that, what do they have in common? 4x minus 1. And if I remove the 4x minus 1 from each term, I'm left with 3x plus 5. And that's our answer for this problem. Okay, let's proceed and do letter D in our examples. Okay, can I factor anything from all three? The answer is no. So take the first term and the last term, come to the sign, multiply them. 35 times 4 is 140. Then you can either use a calculator or do it in your head. 140 divided by 1 is 140. Or in other words, 1 goes into 140 times. 2 and 70. 3 does not go into 140. 4 would be 35. 5 and 28. 7 and 20. And then 8 does not go into it. 9 does not go into it. 10 and 14. 11 does not go into it. 12 does not go into it. 13 does not go into it. Okay, and the next number would be 14. Okay, I want to show you something. We're using the calculator, so let me bring a calculator to the view. So here I have a calculator, and basically I just want to show you that you turn on your calculator, and we're doing this basically in our heads, or you can do it using the calculator. So 140 divided by 10 gives me a whole number, so I put it down. 140 divided by 11 equals a decimal, so that I know that 11 does not go into 140, and so on. So 140 divided by 12 gives me a decimal, so that tells me that 12 does not go in the list. Okay, so that's just a little illustration on how to use the calculator to create this list. Okay, alright, now that we have this list, we'll focus our attention on the middle term. We're looking for 4, and the only pair that gives me a 4 is 10 and 14. So very well, we'll look at the sign of the middle is a negative, so that means the biggest digit is going to be a negative. And if I want negative 4, would 10 have to be positive or negative? The answer would be, it would have to be a positive. Final check. A negative times a positive. Does it give me a positive? No. A negative times a positive is a negative. So that fails. So is there any other pair that will give me a 4? The answer is no. So that means the answer here would be prime. Okay? Alright. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the page, and we have a couple more problems to go. Okay, letter E and letter F. So let's tackle those. Alright, so let's move this up, and let's bring letter E into view. Alright, letter E. First question you need to ask is, can I factor anything from all three terms? And in this particular problem, yes, we can. We can factor out a 3 as well as an x from each term. And if I factor out the 3x, 6xy squared divided by 3x becomes 2y squared. 33xy divided by 3x becomes 11y. And negative 18x divided by 3x becomes negative 6. So that way I was able to factor 3x. Now what we're going to do is we're going to factor this guy in the middle. So we have 2 and 6. So we're going to come here and do 2 times 6 equals 12. I'm going to break down 12. What numbers give me 12? 1 and 12. 2 and 6. 3 and 4. And after that comes 4, so we're done with our list. And we focus our attention in the middle term. is a positive 11, so that means this would be our pair that we would need. And sign in the middle is positive, so 12 will be positive. And if I want 11, the 1 has to be negative. Final check. A positive times a negative. Does it give me the same sign as the last term? Yes, it does. So that means this will work. Now, you have to be very careful. You need to copy this 3x. Okay? And we're going to copy the first term, so it'll be 2y squared. And it's going to be minus 1y plus 12y. And we're going to copy the last term, which is negative 6. Now we've done that, let's group them. So again, we copy the 3x. I'm going to change this parenthesis to a bracket because I'm going to use parentheses to group them. So what can I factor from the first two? I can factor out a y. So this becomes 2y. 2y squared divided by y is 2y. Negative 1y divided by y is negative 1. Next one, bring down the positive. And what can I factor from 12y and 6? I can factor out a 6. And 12y divided by 6 is 2y minus 1. Alright, now we'll bring down the 3x. What can I factor from these two terms? I can factor out a 2y minus 1. And if I remove the 2y minus 1, I'm left with a y and a positive 6. And that it will be our answer. Alright, now we're ready to tackle letter F. Okay, again, as always, ask yourself, can I factor anything from all three? The answer is no. Now there's something different than the previous problems here, and that is the presence of a negative sign in front of the very first term. We don't like that very first term to be a negative, so we want to make sure that we take care of this negative. The way we do that is we can factor out a negative, or in other words a negative 1. Okay, and if we do that, everything is going to change signs. So this would be 5x squared positive 19x, and the last one is going to be negative 4. And if you notice, now we have what we want, which is a positive at the very beginning, and that way we can apply our process, which is take 5 times 4 here on the side, and then create a list of numbers that give me 20. So 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 does not go into it, 4 and 5, and after that comes 5, so we're done with our list. We're looking for something that will give us 19, and in this case is 1 and 20. So this would be, sign is positive, so let's say this is a positive, and then to give you a 19, this would be a negative. So a positive times a negative gives you a negative, so that is good. So we're going to copy the negative 1 and copy the 5x squared. We're going to split the 19x as a negative 1x plus the 20x, and we're going to copy the negative 4. Then we're going to do factor it by grouping. So I'm going to put bracket. What can I factor from the first two? The answer is an x. So 5x squared divided by x is 5x. Negative 1x divided by x is negative 1. Bring down the positive. What can I factor from the last two? 4. 20x divided by 4 is 5x. Negative 4 divided by 4 is a negative 1. Very well. What can I factor from these two terms? I can factor out a 5x minus 1. And what's left? An x plus 4. And that is our answer for this problem. So this concludes lesson number 5, factoring trinomials. And thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.